the racks every week, keep craving that rush that you get when you flip to the next page. Life is better when you're living between Wednesdays. Yes, got a massive back.
What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews, and I'm joined today by Dillon, and we're going to talk about their new comic, Metalhead Samurai. Dillon, thanks for coming on the show today.
I'm happy to be here, Konrad.
Glad to hear it, and I'm excited to have you. As a bit of a rock and metal fan, definitely excited about your work. So super easy question to start with. For the folks out there in YouTube land who've never seen your face, never heard your name, who is Dillon?
Dillon is a basement-dwelling, metalhead, movie-loving, video game-playing nerd. I love comic books. I'm currently trying to push my Kickstarter comic book, Metalhead Samurai, out there right now. And I think it's, if anybody is a fan of getting their face melted, then check out the comic.
Beautiful. I love it. Very clearly, just looking in your background, you've got the poster from your comic on, I guess, your right. We've got awesome Spawn behind you. A very creepy elf on the shelf with a shotgun. The crow, maybe?
That's, sorry, Elf on the Shelf?
Yeah, behind the skull.
Oh, that's another Spawn, I think, up there.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Yeah. Like you said, we're here to talk about Metalhead Samurai. I actually checked earlier today, and if I'm not mistaken, your campaign is already going very well.
Yeah, just I think it was yesterday. No, it was the day before yesterday. We just got funded.
Awesome, and that's what, like 6-7 days in, right?
I think 3 days in.
3 days in. Oh my god! Congratulations already on crossing the finish line technically. So let's see if we can't get all the bonus, all the extra, so that fun things can happen for you. So what is Metalhead Samurai?
Metalhead Samurai it's Mad Max with the heavy metal elements supercharged up to 11. It's violence, it's gory, but there's also humor. There's also just a little sprinkle of romance in there. It's everything I wanted to put into a comic book in a comic book.
Perfect. No, that is a perfect answer. And when I was reading it, because obviously you've sent me a review copy, a couple of the things I appreciated, actually. One was the literal face melting, which was awesome and fun and wild. And again, I'll see if I can't put a picture up of it, but the vehicle that our protagonists drive has a number of self-defense systems, one of which is fire and flames, which I appreciated as a little nod to Through the Fire and the Flames. And even a little reference to Canada there I found with Stand on Guard. I guess where to start? You know what? Clearly you're a metalhead. What music do you recommend for folks who maybe don't know any metal?
I always thought it would be, because I have that line in the comic book that states, blast your favorite heavy metal as you're, reading through all this, decapitation and blood spewing. But I think it would be funny if you don't listen to metal, play some classical music, some Mozart, Bach, all those guys. I think that would be hilarious to read through, watching all the heads flying, all the blood spewing, to some classical music.
You know what? I could see that going well, especially with the way that some metal goes, with how epic it can be. Although now the idea of, Beethoven's For Elise playing while these monsters, demons, and everything else is just getting destroyed is hilarious to me. So what inspired the book?
I mean, honestly, it's number one. I gotta say it's Mad Max. I'm such a fan. And Lord of the Rings. I'm a pretty big Lord of the Rings fan, and I kind of wanted to mash that all together. But I think story elements are inspired by my own life, and friendship is a pretty big theme in the comic book. Friendship and family, how to treat your friends, how to treat your family. Yeah.
I dig it, and it definitely, that is one thing that really came through. So as we can see in the poster to your right, that is the heavy metal samurai, or the sorry metalhead samurai. Um, in the book, his human name, his actual name, is Sam, correct?
That is correct.
Perfect. And there's a beautiful scene sort of later on in the comic where we see some of that friendship and that family in Sam's life. And I really like that because the character, the way that Sam is drawn, the way that he's depicted with the red armor, the white paint with the black eyeliner that's, going into spikes, the giant spiked cuffs, this very tough exterior that gets, it doesn't promote the idea of like, oh, he's friendship. He loves his friends. He wants to protect them, be with them. He loves his family. It doesn't put out that image, which I think is a major misconception that a lot of metalheads get, which is they're not friendly people. When generally speaking, metalheads, they're a little bit anarchistic, but like completely friendly, helpful, more or less, trying to just have a good community. So can you talk a little bit about Sam, who Sam is, and what's going on in their world?
There's certainly a stigma about metalheads being these angry, violent, aggressive people, but I do think the comic book promotes a little more of a realistic view on your typical individual who listens to metal. That being said, Sam is angry and he is looking for a fight, but it's because he has, he's got a tragic past. He lost someone that was very, very dear to him, and he's out for revenge. He wants to find the culprit, the bad guy who did him wrong, and he wants to do all kinds of nasty things to them.
Absolutely, and very much he does. When I was going through the comic, like the world that you've created is dense, like not how to say it. It feels rich and lived in and interesting, even though it's a post-apocalyptic. There's not a whole bunch of people around and bad things are happening. When you were designing the world for Sam to live in, how did that come about? What was the mentality for creating it?
It's a world where pop music doesn't exist in this world. It's not happy and fun and kind of lighthearted and positive. It embodies some of that 80s death metal, just the gore, the violence, the chaos and anarchy of it. The world is, back when I was in art school, one of the projects was to make a map, and just make this fictional world, make this place. And of course, me being a metalhead, the map I made was this apocalyptic landscape with all of these interesting and different and dark, weird landmarks. And and also Metalhead Samurai was a character creation project. So I sort of combined those two together, and I just crafted this world that, just happens to be just drenched in sort of the metal world. It's you could say it's typical apocalypse, low population. There's demons, armies of demons hunting the rest of humanity. But it's like I said, it's that Mad Max feel but I'm cranking up that metal vibe.
I love it. And the note you have in the book, which, like you said, crank up your favorite metal music and listen while reading. Immediately when I read that, I was like, oh, I wonder what Dillon is listening to while creating this. So when you're sitting down and writing out these characters, figuring out the scenarios, what are you playing? What gets your brain flowing well?
Well, I'll start by saying that, just a little story here. I was reading a comic book called Shaolin Cowboy by Jeff Darrow. Jeff Darrow's one of my favorites. I look up to him. His artwork is incredible. And as you may know, the narrative behind that comic, it's, there's not a lot of dialogue. The narrative is very small. And I was reading through this comic and I thought to myself, well, I think it would be awesome to just play some music. I think it might even make the experience better. So, Adrian, who you know from Tricovi, he told me about a band who is from my hometown, Edmonton. They're called SNFU.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I decided, like, okay, shit, I'll just put some of these records on. And, I'm reading through this comic, listening to this music, and I swear it made it a better experience. So that's kind of where that line came from. And, after that, I listen to punk and metal. That's kind of typically what I'm into. Recently, I've been listening to even more SNFU, bands like Integrity. I listen to, actually, my buddy, just to do a quick plug here, my buddy from Edmonton, he's the vocalist for a band called Power of Evil. And it's kind of this punky black metal type deal. Kick-ass band. And to top that off, I'm actually listening to some Regina Spektor, which I'm loving quite a bit right now.
All right. I'm not going to lie, some of that, never heard of it before, but I will definitely be able to throw up links so people can check it out. Cool. Would you recommend those be given that sort of that's what you as the creator are enjoying, if someone had no basis in metal, they'd only ever listen to, like, going to show my age here, Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, are those some of the things that you'd recommend people listen to, or is it more so whatever they're into on the metal end? Well,
I'll start off by saying that particular line in the comic isn't meant to be taken too literally, but I'll say this, if people are determined to play music while they're reading this comic, while they're watching all these heads flying, I would say, like, I think listening to Britney Spears would be just as entertaining as listening to any metal band out there. So, you know what?
Nice.
Go ahead, crank that Britney Spears up to 11, man.
I love it. I really do. That's so cool. Then, I guess, given that the comic is funded, which is fabulous, you're, like you said, 3 days in. One thing I do still like to clear up and make very, very clear, because some people who've never done Kickstarter before, they get a little, afraid of pledging their money, or maybe I won't get the book or whatever. So my first question of the series that I come up with for this is typically, what is the minimal amount that someone can pay to get just like a PDF copy?
Yeah, so the PDF copies are $5 right now. If you want to get the digital version, it's just $5. And I have 3 covers out right now, and my cover, the first cover A, is $10. So if you want the base physical version, you can pick up a copy for $10.
Beautiful. And I did want to clarify, Dillon. So, like you said, you've done a cover for it. On the book, you're the writer. Are you also the artist or the letterer? What of the book did you create?
The whole thing was done by me. It was quite a long, taxing endeavor. But yeah, I managed to pull through and get all of those duties done myself.
Beautiful, and congratulations, because that is a monumental task in and of
Thank
itself.
you.
So minimum someone can get for $5, they can get the digital copy, which some people prefer. Others like myself, $10, you can get your cover. If I'm not mistaken, the next cover up was $15 or $20.
It was, yeah, $15 and then 20. Yeah.
That's it. So awesome pricing. You are now, because I do like to promote Canadian folks as well. Like you said, you're from Edmonton. Are you still located in Edmonton, or have you moved out?
Still here.
Beautiful. Always happy to spotlight where Canadian creators are from. So then, just to clear it up as well, so it's very, very clear. The $5 for the PDF, that's Canadian dollars, correct?
That is Canadian dollars, yes.
So if you're in the States watching this, basically, I don't know what the exchange rate is right now, like $3.50-ish probably. You can get a PDF copy. There won't be really shipping because it's an email away. I love that.
Thank you for specifying. Yes, I forget to mention, but yes, that is $5 Canadian. So yeah, if you're in the States, it's gonna be cheaper.
Absolutely. It's funny. No, it's not funny. It sucks, actually. But a lot of the folks that I talk to are American, and as a result of that, for me to get their books, it has to be shipped to me. And that's when it'll take the cost of $10 for a real physical comic, and it adds on shipping costs. Now, us being in Canada and the size of the country, yada, 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 again, shipping costs not the greatest thing in the world. But yeah, it's just nice to outline, A, you're keeping this book very inexpensive, and B, especially if you go digital, equivalently like $3.50 American. Awesome. Right. Or the cost of what? Probably a French vanilla and an apple fritter at Timmy's. That's my order.
For the price of that, you can watch all the decapitations and blood you want.
Absolutely. Then you know what? Given you've done the task of creating the whole book on your own, when did it? Obviously, it started when you were at art school and you had these assignments you had to do. But when would you say you actually started writing the book itself, and how long was the process?
Yeah, so I originally did. I did actually do a comic book back when I was in school, but okay. I did sort of go through the story quite quickly because I was on a time limit to get the project finished. So I decided, I would say about 1.5 years ago, to just rewrite it. I kept quite a few elements the same, but I wrote a 6-issue story arc, and it took a good couple of months to get that finished. And I wrote it kind of in your typical Hollywood script style. So it's, 110 pages, all the dialogue and the captions are all kind of what you'd see in your typical movie script. But yeah, it took a good couple of months to get that script ironed out.
That's fair. I mean, it's definitely, the writing process, especially with comics, is interesting. And I find a lot of people who are currently in comics, they've previously done film, television, or something, because comics and screenwriting tend to pair themselves really well. So I'm curious, like you mentioned, you've got your education, I'm assuming, in art as your major, or was it a minor?
I went to an art school called the Edmonton Digital Arts College, and it was just entirely art based.
Beautiful. And did you go for, like, do they have like a comic specific course? Was it like a fine arts degree?
I got a degree in a course called Digital Illustration and Sequential Arts. Cool. But the digital part is, I typically do my artwork traditionally, especially the line work. So all the line work in this comic is done, pencil and ink on paper. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of the course.
That's really cool. So then for the book, like you said, I'm assuming you've got all the pages penciled. Do you then scan them and digitally ink them and do all that?
Yep. So I've got a big old scanner beside me. I scan all the pages, and the coloring and the lettering, all of that stuff is done through Procreate.
Oh, good. Awesome. I love giving the program a shout out. So if you are an Apple product user, you probably already have Procreate. So get making comics. Come on. Um, what would you say so far? Like, again, I'm loving for you that it's already back. That's awesome. So far, how have you felt about the response that you've gotten?
It's great. Like I love seeing just like all of these metalhead guys. Like I look, I gotta start by shouting out, and I gotta plug one of the cover artists. His name he goes by Arif Rotworks, and he's the former lead singer and founder of a metal band that I love so much called Wormrot. And I told him about my project, and he's such a nice guy, and he dug it. He was so nice. He was very complimentary of the work, and I was shocked when he said that he was into doing a cover. So it's really cool to see, the metal community sort of engaging in this project. I get a lot of the likes and the thumbs up about a metal themed comic book.
Hell yeah. One thing I did want to ask is, prior to the Kickstarter, like, have you already gone to cons and things like that, or has the response you've received so far just been from the Kickstarter?
So I haven't done a con yet. I'm actually planning on doing maybe my first con this year.
Ooh.
But before I made Metalhead, before I actually was around the same time, but I did a quick project. It was a children's book called Grubbit's Apocalypse Dog, which stars the dog from the comic book. And I think that I was able to kind of promote that, and that was sort of it's kind of a sidekick to the comic book, but it's very different. So, it's very much, kind of an all ages book. So when you read Grubbit's Apocalypse Dog, it's very kid friendly. And then you open up Metalhead Samurai, and then it's like a slap in the face. It's very much an adult book.
You know what? That is absolutely one of the things that when I was reading the book and going through it, I was so happy to see was a thing. Because when the dog comes up in the context of Metalhead Samurai, I was like, cool. Like, that's really cool that they have a cute character. I don't know if cute's the right word. I think he's cute.
He's pretty cute.
Yeah, right? And then I don't know where I saw it. Probably in the back of the comic. I think there's mention of the fact that you've got these other books out, or other book, I should say, that is for Grub. And I'm like, that's wicked. Mm-hmm. So beyond this comic and then Grub, do you have other books out?
Apart from that, no. I have been working on several different anthology projects, all of which are coming out. Three different ones, actually. One of them is a punk anthology that is being put out there by Lesser Known Comics and Apollo City Comics Podcast.
Nice.
That'll be coming out in April. And then I did another one was it's actually a local project for my college instructor. He got some funding from the city, and it's going to be like a Snakes and Ladders themed anthology project. And I did a little piece for that one.
Oh, cool. That's fascinating. It's also really cool to know that you're getting involved with Lesser Known Comics, because I know and have interviewed quite a few of their creators, so you may well be coming back my way, Dillon. Um, that's awesome. Good for you. Um,
Thanks.
has this all of these, well, like you said, they're coming out soon. For yourself, then getting into like the creative writing field, the art field, um, has this all sort of happened just post graduation and you're just getting out there? Um, and yeah, what was that sort of journey like for you?
Well, I graduated from college, and I was working part time, and um, there's a gentleman by the name of Jay Bardilla who sort of put my name in for kind of my first paid gig as a comic artist for an independent creator. So that was that was really cool to finally be getting paid to do comics. It was a small project, but that led into several other projects. And I got to say, like, Mark and the lesser known comics community it's a real cool community. Mark reached out to me a little over a year ago, I think. And he's such a nice guy, and talking with some of the creators involved with that company and those projects, it was great for networking, but also just it's a fantastic community. And yeah, all those people over there are really, really nice people.
I couldn't agree more. One of the cool things that I've gotten to see doing what I do, and knowing Mark basically, is I've seen how quickly lesser known comics has gone from like a little comic publishing house with a handful of creators, and all of a sudden he's kind of ballooning out, and he's getting all of these different creators involved, and bringing people in, and it's really cool to see. And I don't think, like you mentioned, I don't think you would see that if it wasn't good people that he was putting in his house. So yeah, best of luck for you with them.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, Another thing I wanted to ask, so we've talked about like the $5 Canadian minimum buy-in to get a PDF copy. What are some of the other rewards that you have for the campaign?
So you can get all three covers for a discounted price for 40 Canadian dollars. I do have what I'm calling the complete bundle, which it comes with all three covers. It has a sticker pack, and it comes with an 11 by 17 signed print. And then the biggest tier that I have is it's that completed bundle, but I'm also going to be doing sketch covers. So you can get
Nice.
an original sketch cover on a blank comic.
Super cool. Then one thing I did want to ask is, because there's 25-ish days left, um, the campaign that'll be ending.
I think
Oh
April
God.
6th or 7th.
Yeah, early April. From that day, how long would it be until someone has their copy of the book?
I'm aiming for July. I want to make
Nice.
sure that I have a good, buffer period where I can get all of the, receive the funding, and then I can get the comics and rewards produced and packaged nicely, and then shipped out.
Beautiful. And knock on wood, I wish you all the best with the printing.
Mhm.
I hope that it goes well, that the first set of comics comes out and they're gorgeous and beautiful, and that's all you have to think about.
Well, I will say that the Grubbets Kickstarter, the printing and everything for that has gone, for the most part, very well. There are a few Kickstarter little items that are taking a little bit longer, but I don't have any of those in this current Kickstarter. So I'm predicting all of the printing will be done quite quickly and efficiently.
Nice. I always do like to ask, which printer are you going with?
I'm thinking of going with Mixam.
Okay. Nice.
And, for other things like the stickers that people order, there is a local shop in town that I'll be going for the stickers. And then, yeah, same for the print. But yeah, MixM for the comics.
I love it. And thank you for going local. One of the things that with my show and when I talk to people, I always try and emphasize is support local.
Right.
Which in this day and age can actually be difficult, but thank you. Because people ideally all across Canada and the United States who have backed your book can take their money, give it to you to buy your comic, which is great. And then you taking it and going to local businesses to get your prints done, your stickers done. I love it. So kudos, Dillon. That's awesome.
I'm happy to do it, man.
Hell yeah. So important question. Metalhead Samurai #1 is finished. I've read it, so it is finished. It'll be out in people's hands soon. It does end on a bit of a cliffhanger, so that way we can go into a potential issue 2.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to ask, how big is this going to be?
I've left it open for, like, I originally wrote that 6-issue story arc, but it doesn't end there. I have written it to span. It's pretty open-ended. I do want it to span, if it gets picked up, if people like it, I'd love to continue working on it. And I could go 30, 40, 50 issues really.
Nice.
But yeah, it's that first story arc that kind of gives you a little taste of what there is to come.
I like it. And like you said, so the first arc is going to be 6 issues, which is great. I appreciate doing the art on these books takes a lot longer than writing it sometimes. So do you have 6 issues written and now you're catching up on the art, or is it some weird where in between? How's that process going for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, I did write all 6 issues are completely written. However, going back, I think it's Alex Toth. He says, change your work at every step of the way. And so, of course, I finished up the lettering, and I'm going through and I'm reading this book, and I'm thinking, some of the writing needs to be tweaked. And I ended up tweaking not the story, but just the technical lines. So quite a lot of the writing was adjusted. So I'm predicting that will happen for the rest of the comic, but it's going to be the same story, the same pacing. The writing, I think the writing takes a bit longer for me.
Okay.
It's, I'm kind of, this is my first time it was the first time writing 110 page script. And, there's a lot of trial and error there. But I think I came out with a really interesting story with a lot of unique characters, some cool settings. I think it's going to be a really funny comic. I think with this material, the humor kind of writes itself. And the drawing, I think I'm a fairly quick drawer. But again, that's pencil, ink, and the coloring. So all of those duties put together, it is a pretty time consuming process.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it is cool to hear that for you, the writing comes a little bit slower. Just because It's interesting. And I love the taking the wisdom of Toth or Toth, because it's 100% correct. I was curious, the stuff that you're changing, is it the dialogue so that it feels a little more natural? Because you've written 6 issues now, that's a lot. Is it just, by the time you've written that 6th issue, you go back and read issue 1 and you're like, that feels weird? So what happened?
I have to confess, I'm still working on drawing a picture and fitting the dialogue into the box.
Oh.
So I've written for example, a speech bubble for a panel, and I noticed, oh, there's too much dialogue. There's no way it's going to fit into this panel. So I had to trim the fat. I had to make it a little bit leaner. I think it was a good exercise in leaner writing. I think, it's a comic book. It's a 27-page comic book. You get through it pretty quickly. I don't want there to be too much dialogue, so it was a good exercise in a leaner script.
Nice. Has there ever been a time where you chose the dialogue over the art, meaning, you know what, I am going to sacrifice a bit of the art to be able to have a larger chunk of dialogue? Like, is there anything that story-wise was critical enough to deem that, or was it always the visual storytelling of the comic itself is going to be the more important part?
There may have been times where I've gotten rid of dialogue to keep the artwork in, but the story still flows. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that you should be able to go through a comic book and understand what's going on without the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So if there ever was that case where I had to, really cut down the dialogue or get rid of it completely, you should still be able to understand the progression of the story.
I love it. That's a clean, nice answer. Then a cool question I'd like to ask about the art in especially in comics, because your standard comic, what do I got beside me here? GCPD. So your standard comic is very much so beautiful. Panel based, right? Everything is contained within the panel. It's fairly popular now. A lot of artists will work outside of a panel and do all sorts of interesting things. And one of the things in your book I found was in larger action scenes, especially revolving either the car or large groups of monsters and demons, one, the dialogue, the actual word bubbles would sort of disappear in favor of just text on the image. But also the way that you showed the action, like I said, with the car, where it would move through the different panels, or even the page itself might lose the whole panel formatting in form of just a more free flow art style. Can you talk on the decision to do that creatively, what that allows you to do, and sort of your experience with it?
I'm a big fan of panels that bleed out. I feel like, panels, they contain your artwork. And of course I do have borders around certain panels, but other panels, I want the artwork to just sort of blossom outside of the page. And I think it makes it a little more exciting. It creates, it's, quite literally, I'm breaking the borders of this comic to showcase, an action scene. So I might have like, the vehicle was, I think it was like plowing into a pile of these demons. And borders can be restrictive, and I do like to just let the artwork explode off the page. And that's one of the ways I can sort of do that.
Beauty. Then you know what? We've covered a lot of detail about the campaign, and again, links down below. We've covered people's minimum buy-ins, and it goes up from there so they can get multiple copies, again, for what I would consider an extremely reasonable price. One thing I guess I always like to bring up and ask about, and the question just totally left my brain, Dillon. Oh my god. Okay. Where's your responses to it? I guess. Well, you know what? We can go into the fun questions, and I'm sure that question will come back. So in that case, because we've covered all like the critical details, one of the things I do like to make sure I bring up is how can people follow you? Where are you most active in posting? If people want to just check you out day to day and see that kind of stuff, where's the best place?
I'm definitely most active on Instagram at D Korbisser, and same thing on Twitter. I am actually starting to get more active on Twitter. I'm posting, I would say, almost as often. Instagram, Twitter, and I do have a Facebook page as well, which is, I don't visit too often, but I do like to post on there. If Facebook is your social media platform of choice, you can visit me there.
Same. I have a Facebook page. It usually gets my Instagram posts when I can go, yeah, post on Facebook too.
Yeah,
I totally get it. Then you know what? For some fun questions, normally I ask stuff like, what are you currently reading? What's your favorite collectible that you own? Because you're more into metal and all the fun stuff. If you could draw an album cover for any band, ever, what would you want to draw? Whether it's for a new album or for an existing album, just your spin on it.
I mean, I when you look at Metalhead Samurai, you'll notice I do like to draw violence. I like to draw the gory, violent artwork. And, I think in that regard, I think any sort of death metal album would be fun to do some artwork for. If I had to pick a specific band to do some artwork for, gosh, I don't know. I mean, it would be really cool to do a Wormrod album cover. That would be fantastic. You know what? I think I need to throw some shade at Metallica. I think their new album artwork, I think their marketing campaign is a little bit stinky. I think they need some I miss the glory days of 80s metal where they had those beautiful paintings and movie posters too.
Oh.
They had just gorgeous. I have a poster of The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing on my wall. It's one of my favorite posters. And I miss those days, man. Like beautiful, just full of skill and effort posters, not some shitty headshot of, Josh Brolin or whatever. I miss the paintings. I miss the actual artwork. So yeah.
That's, what? The moment you said it, I was like, holy crap, yeah. Because I don't think bands, and maybe it's a money thing, and I hope that's not it, because God knows that these bands make enough money, especially like the huge bands. But yeah, I don't know, that whole genre of album covers where they were gorgeous, detailed works. Damn. You know what? Maybe, Dillon, just maybe, put a little portfolio together and just start messaging on Twitter. Hey, Metallica. Hey, I don't know, Cannibal Corpse, whatever. Whoever's still active, which is far beyond my knowledge. Just reach out. Who knows? Maybe we'll get you doing album covers or something crazy like that. But I agree. That would be sick.
That's a good idea. I think there's a little too much. There's too much simplistic computer photoshopped work out there. That new stuff from Metallica. I think anybody could do that. I don't want to diss someone too bad, but it's not good work. Like I want to see, the album covers. Like Iron Maiden has always had amazing album covers.
Yeah.
The old Megadeth album covers were fantastic. I want more of that these days.
Yeah, that'd be really nice, actually. Because, yeah, like some of the art on those covers, and I'll make sure I bring some up. Like, it was just thought-provoking, eye-catching. Like, my God, it was eye-catching. And maybe it has something to do with, like, mostly because we all, Spotify and stuff, that it's not as necessary.
Right.
I don't know, but God, yeah, I wish they'd bring that back. Same with the movie posters.
Right.
I don't know if you follow it, but there's a lot of movie posters nowadays. They tend to become a pyramid of heads, where it's like the main actor and then all the supporting actors are thrown in. Yeah, if we could deal away with that and go back to art.
I blame the 90s for that. The 90s was like the peak pyramid head. Like,
Oh yeah.
like you think of all those Scream movies, it was just like, each actor's head, and it was in like a triangle. It's just lazy to me. It's frustrating. It makes me mad.
I can agree. Yeah, it's damn interesting. It is what it is. Like I said, put a portfolio together, because your art is awesome, and it's got that the colors that you choose are very poppy and they're strong colors. Go for it. I would love to see if a year from now you're tweeting out, oh hey, new album cover for X, here you go, because that'd be sick. Another thing I wanted to ask is on the comics end, who do you read? Like, what got you into comics? What are you currently reading now?
So my first comics were I got a Spider-Man and a Wolverine comic from the local London Drugs. That first Spider-Man comic, actually, Peter Parker breaks his neck in that issue, and so I think that might have something to do with kind of the direction I went with my comic books. But if we're talking artwork, I've sort of come to like, I'm a big Tim Vigil fan. I love, sort of that outlaw, highly detailed black and white artwork. Being from the 90s, big Spawn fan. I love Spawn. So Greg Capullo has been a huge influence, and Todd McFarlane as well. Big influences for me there. And then, Jeff Darrow is incredible. I love all that detailed artwork. As for the writing, what do I read? I'm not reading a whole lot of Marvel comics. DC, I've never been a huge DC fan apart from Batman. I followed Greg Capullo into the Batman run, but Marvel comics, I did read The Immortal Hulk. I've collected all the issues, and that's because I'm a big horror fan. And I think the artwork and the writing in The Immortal Hulk is really impressive. So apart from that, it's usually independent stuff. I've always been a big Image fan. I enjoy quite a few of the stories that come out of there. And I think there's a lot of really great independent stuff coming out that aren't a part of the big two or Image Comics, the big three, if you want to call it that. I recently read, just to throw an example out there, I read this series. Actually, I didn't read the final issue. I don't have it. But it's called Come Into Me from Black Mask Studios.
Oh, okay.
And it's I was reading this comic, and it's one of those comics where my jaw just drops and I audibly say, like, holy shit. There's moments in that comic that just are like shocking stuff. So if you're into like body horror and like weird, creepy horror comics, check out Come Into Me from Black Mask.
I dig it. And did you get that? I like to be able to explain to people how to get the book. Did you get that online, digitally, at your local shop? How did you come into that copy?
So I got that at the local shop.
Yes.
And I got the back issues for that comic. And I wanna make sure that I mention the articles in the back of that comic. I don't know if you would get the articles if you were to buy a trade paperback, but in that series, at the end of every issue, there's one or two articles that are ripped from, people with, experience in certain subject matter that deals with the comic. And those articles were the highlight of the comic. And I got those in the back issues. So if you can, search out the back issues to read those articles, because they are shocking. There's some shocking stuff in there, like real world, like real life, crazy stories.
That's so cool. Thank you. One of the things that, and I don't mean to be, this is going to come off elitist, and I really hate that, because I think everyone should read comics, and however you want to read your comics. Just read comics. One of the advantages to getting floppies like this is stuff like that. So most recently where I came into content like that is Chip Zdarsky's Sex Crims, or Sex Criminals. In the back of that, they just had like a very typical, someone would write in a question and they would answer it. And that's like super normal. It used to be done all the time. But you get a lot of cool stuff like that when you get the floppies. What you've mentioned is even cooler to me, because that is like applicable examples of real world stuff that inspired or worked into the comic, which is sick. So yeah, go read floppies. Trades are great, don't get me wrong. Hardcovers are amazing. Artists will draw in them at cons and sign them for you. But thank you for bringing that up, Dillon. That's super cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Then you know what? I think my last question for you today tends to be either the hardest or the easiest. And that is simply, what do you want folks out there to know?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Oh gosh. I want people to know that even when you're reading Metalhead Samurai, it's okay to play Britney Spears in the background. Play whatever music you want, man. Music is awesome. You don't have to just listen to metal while you're reading a comic full of decapitations and disembowelment. Play Britney Spears, man.
I love it, and thank you. Again, as we mentioned sort of near the beginning, to fight that misconception that metalheads are angry, sometimes narrow-minded, aggressive, evil, satanic people. Perfect example of the exact opposite. You've been just perfectly pleasant. So Dillon, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Connor, it's a pleasure. I appreciate you giving me the platform to talk about my book, and it's been a pleasure talking to you as well.
Absolutely. And when issue 2 gets kickstarted, let me know. We'll be happy to have you back on. And for the people out there in YouTube land, like, comment, and subscribe. Click the main links down below. The first one will take you to the Kickstarter. Get the book, $5 Canadian, $10 for a physical copy, and we'll see you next time.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day. Yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find issue 2? Yeah. Collector problems, cliffhangers, mysteries. You need answers. When did Batman become Green Lantern? I get it. True believer, not lying. Always up for an awesome summer crossover tie-in. High flying, full color or black and white. Splash pages, flashbacks. Whet your appetite with new costumes, team ups, first loves, first appearances.